Destiny community could doing speed runs for like GOS or Deepstone without oobs would be really fun. Probably not. But so I was talking yesterday. I didn't stream yesterday because I ended up being held up a bunch, but we ended up no one ran them. Really? See, like, I feel like I guess the whole point is to go as fast as possible, so like out of bounds and like gets creative. But at that point it's just like who can do the fights the fastest. There's no like meme categories. But there was a tweet by DMG yeah, I heard that it's just actually kind of obnoxious because you can skip the entire thing. I managed to complete a patrol before just getting kicked. Yeah, I wonder what's going on. But DMG tweeted, so let's focus here for a second. So DMG tweeted that he muted the words "dead game." Okay, muted the words "dead game" on Twitter. After the announcement that Bungie was expanding, right? So because of this, someone made a retweet of him saying, shouldn't you as a community manager be taking in all feedback, even if it includes the words "dead game"? What do you guys think? Because I have my thoughts and opinions on it. But what do you guys think? Is it set a bad precedent as a community manager, or do you think it's a healthy thing on his personal account to mute those words? Or not? While I actively watch Bungie help to see what's going on. By the way, if you're just tuning in, you're just coming to stream, we're having issues with Destiny server connection, so we're waiting a minute to see if we can get into stuff. I've seen dead game be plastered on pretty much all games I play in. It's just dumb, useless drivel most of the time and really isn't worth reading. Fair enough. Dead game towards someone in his position can definitely put a damper on one's thoughts. Is used in a very aggressive context by those that don't have anything to contribute. Okay. So let's say, let's play some devil's advocate here. So let's say I have a well thought out argument saying that I believe that Destiny's heading towards the direction of a dead game, but my argument is like really solid. Is it worth as a community manager knowing you'll be missing the 10%? Let's say it's 30% of people that are using dead game have a meaningful argument and 70% don't. Is it good knowing that your community manager is avoiding that topic of conversation and looking for feedback from other channels? I think that's the important question here. Want to hear see something negative about something I have made and put someone right, but it is important to recognize that DMG's job is to look at that feedback. It is important that he looks at all feedback. He looks at both positive and negative feedback, right? But does it help knowing that usually when someone uses the term dead game, we'll say, let's say we'll be generous and say 60% of the time, 60% of the time they're saying that there's nothing that's contributing. They just say dead game and move on. So like that's very different than me saying that PvP is currently in a state that needs to be addressed, and I don't know how to solve those issues, but right. So my main point was that knowing that DMG muted those words means that now feedback he's getting is going to be more constructive, because you can give negative feedback, but it's constructive. Yo, Subwave, it is very broke. We don't know what's going on, so we're waiting on Bungie help to see. I mean, it's his job to read and respond to comments, right? It is his job to read and respond to comments. This is a good conversation. So here is my point, right? So my point was, but we as people with feelings and emotions can only handle so much. Correct. So my point was, one, it's his personal Twitter account. So he may be a community manager, but there's only, like, he's realistically only scheduled to be a community manager for like so many hours in a week, right? So like, if it's his job to respond to those things, imagine he goes above and beyond all the time, like tweeting out, retweeting, like playing the game in the community like you should, responding to Reddit posts, and like they actively have to tell their community managers all the time, like when they're on vacation, do not do community manager things on vacation. If you're gonna play Destiny, that's fine, do it, but you don't need to actively doom scroll through Reddit. You don't need to like scroll through Twitter. You don't have to do all of that. Just focus on like your life. And so it's very important that like we remember that these are still people behind the screen. So most of the time when I see the word dead game in an argument, there is no positive or constructive conversation to be had. It's just usually Destiny 2 is a dead game. That's it. They don't ever give like a reason why. They don't ever explain like what they could do to make it better, what their experience was. They just say Destiny 2 dead game. Yo, Spud was in here. It's all good, Total. Welcome back. So as a community manager, does it set a bad precedent? First of all, is it a bad precedent? Because for me, in my view, is by DMG muting those words, it means that when he is on his community manager time, he's not scrolling through feeds of dead game with no argument. He's actively seeking constructive feedback. Correct. It's not like we know what the Bungie Twitter account actually has, like whatever. But for me, it's not so much like the fact that he chose to mute the words dead game. It's the fact that like if he's actively choosing to do that, hopefully the feedback that's being addressed now is feedback that has at least some density to it, right? Like for me, and like what I would look at if it was my job as community manager at Bungie, let's say. I don't want to shy away from negative comments because negative comments are very important to figuring out problems with your game. right? Like dead game indicates, and this was an argument that was brought up, like, well, if there's so many dead game comments, shouldn't you be trying to figure out what's wrong with your game, right? Well, they have to, Dragon. So Cosmo, DMG, Deej, any community manager does have to post from their own account. Like that is sort of like the expectation in the community manager world, is that they want you to have a tangible account, like a personal account, so the players feel like there is a person, an envoy or a voice of the people. They have a Bungie Twitter account. It's a they want to make sure the community managers are involved in a personal way. But here's the caveat, right? So if it were me, if I saw a post that said dead game, right? If I saw a post that was dead game all the time, whether it was on the Bungie account or not, right? Why would I waste my time scrolling through 80, like let's say there's 100 posts and 80 of those posts say dead game. Why would I spend my time reading all 80 of those posts when they're all saying Bungie dead game, Destiny dead game, Destiny dead game, right? When 20 of those posts have the meat and I can take and pull and go, yep, cool. I like this feedback. Like, for example, I'll give you guys an example of feedback that I would give, right? And it'll be like negative feedback. Currently, as a non-PvP player, someone that avoids PvP, right? I don't want to play Trials ever. I don't like Trials. I don't mind that there's loot behind Trials, but it would be nice to have a slightly more accessible option to that loot, because as it currently stands, if the loot is behind a 7 win reward, I'm not getting it. Right? A separate Bungie account could handle the incoming posts about Destiny and you could have some sanity. It's a community manager, like, as like a whole, it like the whole job description is that it is a personal account. There is no like, you're not like you don't have a corporate account, because then it doesn't, because the reason why people like community managers is partly because they do express themselves, right? You pay some Russian kid $25 to go flawless. Not this week, you don't, because this week you do, it will be armor. Like, I don't necessarily care about, like, I would like to get the armor, sure, I could go in and do that, that's fine, but it's more like, it's not, it's, so let me explain. No, the hand cannon is the 7 win reward. That's why people were actually playing last weekend, was because Messenger was the 3 win reward. To the top 6 Destiny streamers last night were all doing recovs. I'd believe it. I'd believe it 1,000%, because there's no incentive to play, right? Is it the flawless? Whatever the case may be, right? I don't care, okay? Like, I don't even care what the rewards are this week. Like, as a non-trials player, that's how little I care of looking, because I know I'm not attaining most of those, right? But if they had some version, like the 3 win bounty is great. Is a great way of getting your players to play. We need more of that in trials to bring up the player population. We're not talking just about that. Hold on, no. We're losing sight. Hold up. Okay. Let's rein it in a second. So we're talking about when DMG muted the words on Twitter dead game. I was just giving my feedback, my negative feedback from my perspective, right? What I said has merit. Clearly, you all agree, right? You all agree with me on the trials thing. Yeah, for the most part, that trials needs something to incentivize the average player to go in, because trials was designed to be a flashy game mode, not a competitive game mode. Like, it's meant to be one with flash and flare and fun, and it was a once a week thing, and now it's kind of gone away from that, right? Okay. But if I include the words, this is going to lead to Bungie or to Destiny being a dead game, now that post will automatically be muted out and probably not seen, at least by DMG. Okay. We have to remember there's multiple community managers too. Okay. But why, if I'm making that type of feedback, why would I even mention the fact that it's going to be a dead game, right? So therein lies the sort of problem with an argument that includes dead game is, if I'm saying the game is dead, one, why am I continuing to play it? And two, why would I put the energy into making a post that obviously has care and thought behind it and then include, well, the game is going to die? Like that, those two don't seem to go hand in hand, right? So I would rather see my community managers put forth more effort in finding that good feedback, that is, hey, we really like Warmind cells, and we really like the build paths that we're going, like that type of stuff. And also seeing like, hey, we have an issue with the armor system currently, can we see some changes to that? We have an issue with trials, we have an issue like that type of right cracked. So I'd rather see them focus on the non-emotional posts that include the dead game, because there's no need to be like, I get that we care about the game, but if you're going to create feedback, it has to be objective. Feedback needs to be like mostly objective. It has to come from your point of view, where you're not taking it from a, like, for example, I like my emotional attachment to the Bad Juju is amazing. I love this gun. I think this gun is amazing, right? This gun has not seen the light of day in use. Exotic primaries in general have problems. That's feedback, right? But I can't make my entire post about buff Bad Juju, because it's not just Bad Juju that has the problem, right? So Bungie does reply a lot to a lot of various posts on Reddit, on Twitter, on the Bungie forums. There's a lot of places where Bungie does reply to you, whether it's a community manager or some like someone on the forums or whatever. Those things are heard, but one of the memes is Bungie's listening, and people are like, well, are they actually? But what people forget is, one, introducing feedback takes time. That takes dev time, right? And I'm not missing your point, Vincent. I'll get to it in a second. But that type of feedback takes time to implement, right? It takes planning, testing, executing, a lot of various things, and a lot of like different things that need to be done to see if it even works. So they a lot of times say, we hear this issue, we know this issue exists. Like every week, DMG now basically says setting the standard for the TWAB. If he writes the TWAB, he sets the standard. He says, this week we're going to be talking about these like 4 or 5 subjects or whatever. It sets a precedent saying, hey, just so you know, here's what we're talking about, right? And so you can get your expectations managed. And that is very important. What people don't seem to understand is that in order to give credible feedback, in order to give positive or negative feedback in a meaningful way, you have to make sure that it's designed in a way that it comes from a place of passion, but it has to be meaningful, right? And right, Bungie's a business, they have to make money. But most importantly, a lot of times, when I went to Guardian Con a couple years ago, I was at a panel. No, it wasn't even at the panel. I got to talk with a dev, and like a dev that was like, he's really awesome. But he and I were talking, and this was just on the floor. He was just hanging out, and we were just chatting about stuff. And he said that one of the things that the player base sometimes doesn't think about is, if we were to make a change, let's say there was a change that needed to be made to something, and they change it, and then it's way worse than before. Like let's say there was an issue with, like, or, well, a good example, Lord of Wolves was stupid overpowered for a long time, right? And everyone was like, just do this or just do that. Well, Bungie, I talked to this guy, he said literally the Lord of Wolves problem was really hard to actually solve because everything that they tried, like, but that the community suggested, didn't work. Because it either created an issue with the gun being completely terrible all the way around, or the gun, like, was way too strong in another mode, or they were like, there was not an easy solution. And at the time, trying to build, because, like, you have to remember, one of the reasons why they cut all the fat out of the game with the Destiny content vault and whatever, was to reduce the amount of time it takes to do what's known as compiling a build. When you compile a build, it would take them over 24 hours. So that's one full day where they literally cannot test anything. Like, they put everything in they want to test, and then 24 hours it takes to compile that build, and then they have to test it. And if anything doesn't work, it takes another 24 hours for them to be able to adjust that and you go, okay, cool. We make all these changes at the end of the day, Friday or on Tuesday. Cool. Bloop, compile the build. Okay, Wednesday or we do it at noon on Tuesday. By Wednesday, all right, we test it for 5 hours. So it reduces the amount of test time that you get, right? So they're like, anything that they had to change, they have to completely recompile the whole game to make sure everything works. That's the craziest part, that people were like expecting things overnight when that's not necessarily a feasible option. Fix the Eyes of Tomorrow. Sleasington. So, but back to feedback, right? So, a lot of times when we're talking about feedback, we do need to remember that, like, at the end of the day, yes, it's DMG's job to read those comments, but I would rather see him read feedback that is meaningful and comes from, like, a very objective place than reading, like, game is dead, dead game, whatever. Well, I'm not saying it's a full recompile. I'm saying, Dragon, what they said in the post was that part of the reason why, because like things they had to, like, in order to test certain things, they were just certain environments they had to test. I'm just giving perspective that, like, it could take a full day for there to be the ability to test certain things. So that's just dev time that, like, is taken away because they're worried about trying to fix things. It doesn't look like the game is getting any better. I'm just chilling in orbit. Regardless, I think that it's okay to, like, as a community manager, to be like, listen, these types of comments haven't been constructive for the last 3 years. Why am I going to continue to listen to these comments when clearly they aren't providing any good context or conversation? Like, the community managers, and Deej was always very important. He's like, I want to continue the conversation. Like, that is exactly what it is it's a conversation. So, like, when you're talking to a community manager, you're not just talking to a robot. You're talking with a person, and that person is having a dialogue with you. If you want to have good dialogue, you don't just sit there and attack the stance of the other person. You try and do your best to make sure that, like, you both understand each other, right? Well, I mean, that's kind of what this season was. If you look at the patch notes of this last season, it was literally fix this, fix that, found a bug doing this and fixed it. Like, that's, like, literally all it was like, the number of times I saw the word fix. Actually, here, let me find it. Destiny 2 3.1. Fixed 118 times. There were 118 instances of the word fixed. all starting a new sentence, by the way. They usually post every week what the known issues are, or like the relevant ones that they're working on. Whoops. Sounds good, total. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, the known list, which is currently a targeted list of specific issues, is stuff they have already previously mentioned. But like they like I said, there's things that they need to fix. I mean, the game is going to have constant things that they need to fix, right? What do you mean the hand cannon targeting issue? The one on the helmet? Some people want too much. Yes, Sleasington, that is very true. Whatever they did now is causing the game to have bad rubber banding issues again like 2 years ago. It could just be your connection. Yeah, Sleasington. That's pretty much it. But like, that's what I'm trying to get at, right? Is like, at what point do you just shut off? Like, there's a like the valve of feedback is constant. Like, at what point do you slow it down? I mean, probably because it's an issue that they don't exactly know how to recreate. PC known issues. Minor bugs which are actually comical when they take place. The cheating in PvP is game breaking, damage rollback, enemies teleporting, stuttering, etc. Well, I haven't really seen any of the damage rollback or really enemies teleporting. Usually when that's happening to me, I'm experiencing a lag issue. Cheating is another issue entirely. But you're never gonna eliminate the problem also entirely on PC, which is like, because the better the anti-cheat, the more intrusive it is to your PC. So like, people have to kind of take their pick. You have on Battlegrounds worse when a boss rolls back. I mean, I think again though, that's an issue that is connection based, which might be harder to solve and take more time. So if you look at their list of known issues, it explicitly states, disclaimer, this is not a complete list, but a targeted list of specific issues. So these are things they're aware of and they know and they are working on fixes for. But like, it doesn't pay to put literally every known issue because sometimes those issues are harder to investigate, right? Thing like this issue is this overseeing server didn't sync with the client took precedence. I've seen the shader. Do you have thoughts on the few people that were streaming their cheats a few weeks back? Like, what do you mean? That one that's ridiculous? I mean, if they were to... So, all right, here's the thing, right? Clearly, there's issues. Okay? Clearly, other people are having those issues. That's crazy, Vincent. Like, those people are just begging for views and clout. The people that... Okay, so the people that streamed their cheats and things like that, that's ridiculous. Like, first of all, they like Twitch, I believe, has a policy. Actually, I know they do, that if you're streaming a game and you're cheating, they can ban you on Twitch. So there's the first part. Second part is obviously Bungie needs to address the fact that those people were cheating, right? The main deal, right, is we know that there's a cheating issue on PC. Right. So, but if you ban them on Twitch, which is what they cared about for Twitch, they don't get that. But one of the things that it was said is put it behind a paywall. Okay, but here, so console has some bugs in loading time. Consoles always had loading time issues. That's a hardware issue usually. But one of the things with cheating, and I've talked about this at length before, is like players want anti-cheat, okay? Bungie has said we have anti-cheat, right? Right. Okay. We don't know how effective that anti-cheat is. Why would they tell us? Okay. But Bungie did show like the statistics of the increase in cheating and number of banned players. And the percentage like they showed, like they didn't give a percentage, they showed the total numbers. And part of why, and I've said this a lot, you cannot get rid of cheating entirely on PC. It's literally not possible. Okay? It is not possible to get rid of cheating entirely on PC. If you think that for 1 second is entirely possible, then you need to really reevaluate how you look at how cheating works. You have to remember that the business Bungie has, there's also an entire business of cheaters, and there are way more people in the business of cheating than Bungie exists. So Bungie is this one small dot against a sea of people cheating, right? And that's literally their job. Like the cheaters' jobs, the cheat creators, the cheat makers' jobs is to break Bungie. My brother legit got banned from D2 permanently out of KY, so what if I do as well? Are the IP... If he was IP banned, you shouldn't be able to play either. But they don't issue IP bans total. So, cheating, even if like Bungie were to come up with one of the best anti-cheats... Look, Valorant is a great example. Valorant was a game where they toted their anti-cheat and how good it was, and it still didn't work. Right? Now you're talking about Destiny, where the player base already has a hard time playing PvP, and Trials is the most prominent place to see cheaters, right? Well, when there's not a player population playing Trials, you're not only going to see cheaters, you're going to see a higher density of them, because the percentage of cheaters, like let's say 5% of the player population is a cheater, okay? And let's say 5%, let's say 3% of that, 5%, whatever that, let's say 3% of the PvP population is cheating, let's say, okay? Well, if 3% of those players is 30,000 or whatever, right? You're talking about... Yes, Dragon, but that was literally what, like, Riot Games was like, here's our anti-cheats absolutely insane. And then cheaters were like, Lamau? Like, that's what I'm trying to say is, like, no matter what you do as a company, cheaters will win. Cheaters are going to beat you. What Bungie needs to do to fix cheating in Destiny is not necessarily better anti-cheat, but incentivize the player base to play PvP in a meaningful way. Because I very rarely, if ever, experience a cheater when I'm playing like Control, because there's way more players playing PvP in that right? So then if I experience less cheaters, like if I experience a cheater in PvP, let's say, it's gonna suck. But then, like, if the next match, like, let's say the next 25 matches, or let's say 50 matches, I don't experience a cheater, I'm fine. All its own, is it possible to advocate for the government to regulate it, shut it down entirely, or is it too ingrained with the gaming industry to the point where doing so would hurt the... So cheating is not illegal, technically, right? Like, if I download a cheat, it's not doing anything illegal, so the government can't do anything. Only way I could think of to make true anti-cheat would be to make a fully sandbox environment for your game to run. To be it's just going to play the new mode on Valorant while I wait for the errors to fix, changing my name on everything else to Calabrese. Fair enough. In D1, it felt like the lure of the exotics was their effectiveness in PvP. The Vexmith class, for instance, you got through the hardest encounter in the game. Your reward is dominating people who didn't do that in PvP. So I'm most constant... Correct, Dragon. What do you mean there's no... What? What are you talking about, Sleazington? Chaperone, Thorn, Last Word, Ace, Crimson, Jade Rabbit, Hawkmoon, Sun, that's not slanted. Graviton Lance. Basically means like better in PvP than PvE. The problem has nothing to do with exotics. It has everything to do with incentive to play PvP. Like, why would I go play Trials if I know that I'm not going to get anything by playing Trials at all? Ace is very good in PvP. There's some So we're investigating various error codes impacting players' ability to log in on all platforms. So they just tweeted 3 minutes ago. So I saw Warframe community manager playing Final Fantasy. Nice, dude. So, but if we're having this conversation about cheating, right? Since we're apparently talking everything, all issues Destiny 2, the way you fix cheating, and I've said this a lot, and I will stand by this, is you fix cheating by incentivizing the average player to go and play Trials, because the 9 times out of 10 I see anything about cheating, and I'm telling you this based on what I've seen on everything social media, is the prominent streamers only complain about cheating when it's Trials weekend. The rest of the week, it seems perfectly fine until Trials. For a lot of reasons. One, it's 3v3, it's more apparent, it's a high skill, high intense game mode that no one is playing. Imagine the future of gaming being, you know, possibly. There's maybe your $1 million idea, Dragon. But that is how you fix cheating at a ground level, is if you get players to see that playing Trials isn't so bad as long as they're getting something, right? Like, what's really important is you spending time in the game mode and feeling like maybe it's not too bad. But like, as a player, even if I had to play 100 matches to get what would have been not necessarily the flawless reward, but the 7-win reward, if I had to play, let's say, 4 times the number of matches the PvP player, like the good PvP player, had to get the 7-win reward. Correct, Novatos, where people spend $50 because they don't believe in their ability, wants a way for them to spend time to getting it, may convince them to do it themselves. Exactly. Here's the thing. If, let's say, I know that I'm not going to get the 7-win reward, but there is a repeatable bounty or I know that at a certain, or I get a random chance at the end of a match. Yep, I saw Vincent. Let's say there was a random chance at the end to get a loot reward of some kind, so I could turn in my tokens at the very least. Then I, as the average player, go, well, maybe it's not so bad to go into trials. Let's find a team, right? So then I can at least go in, and even if I never make it to 3 wins, I'm like, all they said total was that they're investigating it, so we don't know exactly what's going on yet. But incentivizing the average player to play Destiny 2 in PvP fixes a large portion of trials and recovs. And recovs are the other major problem, because you have people coming in, stomping, rolling players that are new or maybe not highlight or whatever, not good. And like, they'll, like, you feel like, oh, I have a chance because these guys are on the same level, and it turns out, no, you don't. That's not fair. That was why they got rid of it. Well, technically, Trials plays on a connection based on the card, but the way it sits right now is like last week, for example. Why would you reset your card after 3 wins? That is exactly, JLo, what they need to do to make Trials better. Because then you're not feeling like you're playing against as many cheaters. You don't feel like you're playing against as many recubs. And even if you are and you're getting face stomped, you still feel like you're getting something. Because as it stands anyways, all the weapons are randomly rolled. So why does it matter, like, how much of it I get? Like, if I get a god roll on my first drop, great. But, like, at least then I'm still playing. Well, I mean, that's just how players are, Dragon. They want flashy stuff to show for YouTube. But that is how Bungie could fix trials. So, like, but random rolls aren't stupid if there's enough of a source of them, right? Like, as a non-PvP player, if I saw, by the way, this weekend, every let me put it like this, right? Every 3 wins, or every 3, 5, and 7 wins rewards a thing, or every 9, 15, and 21 matches rewards you with a reward, right? So I either play to my 9 matches, or I get my 3 wins, or as a player that, like, they need to, like, they also have to incentivize going flawless way more, which honestly should be the adept should be a curated like a non-random rolled version of the gun. But then people get mad because they're like, well, Bungie's just making me play the way I want, like, I don't want to play. Like, oh, that hand cannon has outlaw high impact reserves. Why would they put that roll on that hand cannon? Why is that the curated? Because, like, that's how the community thinks. So at least random rolls or whatever. No, I don't think you need anything that complicated. You don't need anything like that. You just literally need, like, players playing. So that way, even if, like, I never win a game of trials, I'm at least playing to my 9 matches, because I'm like, oh shit, I can get a whatever. And then after 21 matches are in, it resets. It doesn't stop. It recounts, so it goes up to 9 whatever, blah blah blah. So if I'm a PvP sweat, I get super rewarded for playing all the time, because then I'm going, oh, okay, cool. Every 21 matches, I get another set of the trials stuff, right? So then you go, oh, how about being able to pick your role, like with Umbrals? Maybe, but, like, that's the deal, right? Possibly Vincent, but I think even then, the community still would be upset. It literally, there's no, it's a catch-22 as far as non-curated versus curated roles. curated god tier role for the adept weapons, but the issue that always pops in is that once you give the first players to get flawless a much better gun, they can start to gatekeep the flawless reward since they have a better loadout, and that compounds week to week. Correct. More so, what it is well, yes, the community will always be upset. I've said that 100 million times. But what do you guys think of the idea of, like, basically at 21 matches or whatever the number is, you've played 3 times as much trials, like you've played 3 more matches than the wins do, but every time you reset a card, or every time like you do it, like you could keep doing cards to keep getting loot, and you keep getting new matches, so you're like getting like triple your loot. Correct, JLo. That's what I mean by, like, Bungie, like, if Bungie goes, don't, like, oh, these are curated, literally they would be mad. Like, people are mad because they're like, well, we don't like the fact that our rolls are random from trials. This is stupid. And I'm like, yeah, but we're also mad when they curate rolls for us too. So, like, it's literally a catch-22. There's literally no winning in terms of how the loot is sourced. Everyone will have a different perspective on how that works. So we just have to have faith that it's mostly okay. Like, I like the fact, what I don't like right now, well, it's not that I don't like it. It's like people are farming for palindromes right now. But if you're a PvE sweat, there's no need. This is the nice thing is, like, as a PvE sweat, I don't have to worry about farming them now because I'm going to farm Grandmasters for it. Right? It'll be harder, but I'm going to get rewarded for my time. And I'm going to keep farming until I get my roll. But if I don't play a lot of PvE, and I'm not good at Grandmasters, or I don't think I'll have the time to get there, then I don't have to worry about it. I can still get a palindrome, right? That's the deal. So, like, I ran 12 Nightfalls for your palindrome. See, it's literally just an RNG. So that is, there you go. You got Tater's hot takes. You got Tater's hot takes on all this stuff. Yeah, but why? Because then what'll happen is everyone will go, oh, there's too many dropping, and then it's so, like, it is what it is. RNG is RNG. Unfortunately, in a game like Destiny, RNG is part of the game, and you have to accept that. And you have to accept that sometimes you're gonna hit perfect on your first drop, and sometimes it's gonna take you 115 times. Oh, that's funny, Sleasington. And now you can get the Catalyst too. So, Catalyst makes it really fun. So, there you guys go. There's like 30 people in here that just literally listened to me rant for the last hour. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys like the fact that I try and be against the grain on some of this stuff. I think that's the way they're really leaning, if I'm being honest. I think they're really leaning towards trying to make crafting a better thing. I think we have to see what their final iteration of what Armor 2.0 is supposed to be. Somebody, Paul Tassi, actually, I read his article today. He had a really good idea. It was like maybe certain armor drops with like guaranteed hand cannon loader or something like that. So like when you get an armor drop, even if it's not high statted, it drops with a free perk. So Luck in the Chamber is never coming back. Nice, Vincent. Nice. Yeah, it was good. It was unfair is what it was. Luck in the Chamber won't be back. They've said that 100. They've said Luck in the Chamber will not be returning at any point in the game. So the damage perks have been fantastic. a lot of the guns in the game lately have been very good. This I'm very happy with how they did Dead Man's Tale, personally. It was pure RNG. They even stopped it stacking. Frenzy does feel really great. There's a lot of things that just feel great. Yeah, but like it was literally the idea that like they wanted to remove that RNG. Because there was no way to know if a shot was going to be it or not. So, but like here's like the thing too, is like the perks they've introduced this season have been really solid, and like, or this year, like reconstruction, recombination has been really great. I like redirection as a concept. I don't know, like it's not amazing, but it's definitely cool. It definitely shows that they're trying to think outside the box on like their damage perks. This perk is amazing. I find myself less in lasting impression, by the way, is one of the most hilarious, amazing perks, right? That magic moment of surprise, it doesn't need that, right? But like, that's the thing, right? Is like, it doesn't need surprise. It doesn't need that. What the game is missing. If you guys want to know what I think Destiny 2 is missing, it's missing power fantasy. I've said this a ton. It's missing power fantasy. During the Presage mission was the first time I felt the power fantasy again. I felt the sci-fi fantasy of what Destiny truly is. Okay? I think back to D1, and it's not about, my memories have nothing to do about like the sudden moments of amazing. My moments have to do with the like, oh shit, I'm a fucking space magic thing with really crazy powers wielding really powerful things, right? Like it's starting to come back, right? Like I feel it when I wield Xenophage. I feel it a little bit when I wield Anarchy, not great. When I wield like Lament, when I have like 1K, when I use like those types of weapons, or when I'm able to like thunder crash into a boss, like because of this exotic now, like the idea that my character needs to have, I have to have moments where I feel vulnerable, and then I get the gotcha moment, right? The like, oh no, just kidding, I'm actually powerful as fuck, right? Like, that's the idea. Did I get the nade launcher? It's really good. I haven't gotten it yet, no. But I've heard it's really fun to use. But that is what Destiny 2, and it feels like they're starting to go back that direction, right? If I look at some of the Hunter stuff, power is good, that's fun, but when I think back to the Razor Trials or special missions, I think back to the surprise moments. The series has gone on long enough that it's formulaic in its creation. That's gonna be happening from a game we've literally played for like, what is it now? We're in year 6. Like, at a certain point, it is going to be predictable. That's why Presage was so far left, because it wasn't, because it was not part of the mold of what Destiny is. Like, yeah, we're going into a very long time with Destiny overall. You have to sort of temper the expectation, like I'm gonna get surprised, and go more like, what does Bungie have planned next, right? Like, I want to feel powerful. I want to feel like that's why people are talking about how Battlegrounds feels actually really good, and how the Devil's Lair strike feels really good, because there's enough enemies that it feels like I get to like experience that like idea that it's me against the world, but that's okay. And like when you're playing Battlegrounds, there's a lot of things being shot at you and thrown at you, right? Yeah, that feels good. That feels good, because that's what Bungie is good at, is making the game feel like the combat is really good. Right. I don't want it to be everything, but I want enough content where if I want to go in and just mindlessly shoot stuff, I can. Correct. There's a lot of reasons why it's really, really good. But there's also like moments like the Presage where I don't need a lot of enemies to make me feel powerful. I need to feel vulnerable. I need to feel like my guardian is capable of dying. So that way when I don't die, when I have that gotcha moment, that like, aha, nope, I'm actually a really powerful fucking space magic bullshit, I feel like I hit the mark. I feel like I overcame something I shouldn't have been able to because I'm a guardian. Yeah, exactly, Sleasington. Battlegrounds is a nice activity for a lot of players for a lot of reasons, and it's a great showcase of what Bungie can do well. It's literally Battlegrounds. I know a lot of people are like, well, it's fucking stupid. I'm like, Battlegrounds is literally the thing from Rise of Iron that I can't ever remember the name of, that is the public event instance thing. Court of Oryx. What's it called? I don't remember. Archon's Forge, yes. It's literally the Archon's Forge of Destiny 2. You go in, you do it. The objectives aren't overly difficult. There's not a lot to it. You kill a boss, but there's a lot of shit to kill. It's constant. It's really fun. Right? That's like what makes Destiny great, is the moments where there's just tons of shit happening. Like the more things happening, the better the game is. Blindwell was too controlled. It was too tower defensey. Where we're assaulting something is very different. So like, it's very, very reminiscent of that. And that is what the game desperately needed. Bungie needed Battlegrounds. And I honestly am really happy that it got introduced when it did. It shows and indicates that they're really trying to go back to roots. And at the end of the day, that's why we're getting the showcase of the Destiny content vault. Like, Battlegrounds feels very Archon's Forge. Archon's Forge was so successful in a lot of ways. Prophecy so long and drawn out, they stripped the fun factor out of it. I haven't run a dungeon in a long time. A lot of people don't. Now there's incentive to run it. Like, Shattered Throne is still fun, but part of it is like some people want hard content and some people don't. We need a nice balance of the both, right? We need both sides of that coin in order to make it work, right? But this is why it's so important to have these conversations, because like sometimes we got to remember that there's multiple parts of this community that exist. So like, there are literally people, and it makes me sad to say, that have never touched a raid ever. You know, the real question is whether or not they can give Gambit a proper end game. We don't need a Gambit end game, but that's my opinion. Empire Hearts were like kind of cool, but they were very like shallow, I guess. But it's a cool concept. Solo Nightfalls? I mean, sure. Nope, not yet. I'm still getting contacting. At this rate, I might just call it a night. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. That's just logged off. Yeah. Since Trials of Osiris is a thing, where do you think they'd be able to fit the old trial? I don't think it's coming back, D2. If it comes back, it'll come back in like some way where like it's introduced in like prophecy maybe, or some content in the future. It's a very innovative mode that has a lot going for it, but doesn't receive any care. Somebody plays, enjoys it more, which is heartbreaking. Yeah, I've heard Sleasington. Gambit was a cool concept that was ruined. It took all of the worst aspects of it took the worst parts of the two game modes it was trying to create and kind of like really doubled down on them. Because like when it was played in like the closed test or whatever, they were curated weapons and loadouts essentially. Like there was only so much you could pick from, which made it really balanced. As soon as you introduce the world of exotic weapons to this pool, this whole game mode becomes entirely different. But I just thought of all those. The problem with Gambit, one of the major problems with Gambit is heavy ammo, and the other problem is the invader and like how much advantage sometimes that can give. So yeah, well, Xenophage, Truth, Eyes of Tomorrow. To be fair, Gambit is probably the sole reasons linear. No, linear fusions have never been good. Same thing with fusion rifles, at least in PvE content. I've always said that they need love. I love fusion rifles. I have a die-hard love for them. The only fusion rifle that's ever seen. Okay, this doesn't count. We don't talk about this. We don't talk about this. But like, Merciless is really the only one that's ever seen use in PvE. Sometimes loaded question, but Jotun rules. Okay. All right, we've sat here and we talked shit, a lot of shit about Destiny, but like at the end of the day, we still play the fucking game. And like we still have fun, right? We still enjoy it. And that's why we can have these conversations. That's what's important, is like remembering that this is why we can have the conversation. At this point, I don't think it's getting fixed anytime soon, though. Exactly. Yep. You just have to remember that sometimes like the game's not going to be exactly what you want, and that's okay. So I've been playing other things. No. Jesus. Honestly, so here's my thing, right? Like I'm with this ship till it sinks.